The lights inside the Geneva Orbital Research Station flickered for just a moment. Dr. Sarah Chen held her breath as she watched the numbers climb on her screen. Around her, 12 other scientists stood frozen, their eyes fixed on the same data streams that glowed in the darkness of the control room. "Power levels holding steady," called out James Martinez from his station. His voice cracked slightly. They had been working on this project for 7 years, and now everything came down to this single test. Sarah's fingers moved across her keyboard, adjusting variables that most physicists said should not even exist. The test chamber, floating 300 meters away from the main station, contained their creation. It was not much to look at from the outside, just a sphere of exotic metals and crystallized dark matter. But inside that sphere, they were attempting to tear a hole through the very fabric of space itself. "Beginning ignition sequence," Sarah announced. Her hand hovered over the final command key. Around Earth and throughout the solar system, humanity had been alone for so long. They knew aliens existed out there. Radio telescopes had picked up their transmissions for decades. Humanity had even decoded some of their languages and learned about their great galactic council. But humanity could not join them. Their faster-than-light technology was too slow, too primitive. While alien ships traveled through special pathways in space called hyperlanes, human ships crawled through normal space at barely a fraction of light speed. Until now. Maybe. Sarah pressed the key. The sphere in the test chamber began to glow. Not with normal light, but with something that hurt to look at directly. The air itself seemed to bend around it. Then, without warning, space cracked. It looked like someone had taken a hammer to a sheet of glass, except the glass was reality itself. The cracks spread outward in impossible patterns, and through those cracks something else showed through. Something that was not quite darkness and not quite light. "We have ignition," someone shouted. The room erupted in cheers, but Sarah kept watching her instruments. The sphere was working exactly as they had theorized. It was not looking for natural hyperlanes like alien technology did. It was creating its own path, forcing space to move aside and let it through. "Recording velocity," Martinez said, his voice rising with excitement. 10 light years per hour, 20, 50, 100. He paused, checking his instruments twice. "Sarah, it's still accelerating. 200 light years per hour. 300. Sarah felt her heart hammering in her chest. Alien FTL drives, according to the transmissions they had intercepted, could manage about 10 light years per day at their fastest. They had just exceeded that speed by a factor of 50, and their test drone was still accelerating. 500 light years per hour and holding, Martinez finally announced. "The drone is stable. All systems nominal." The room fell silent. They had done it. They had actually done it. Humanity had just leapfrogged over thousands of years of alien technological development in a single afternoon. Then the alarm started blaring. "What is that?" Sarah demanded, pulling up new data screens. Something was wrong. The tier in space they had created was not closing properly. It was radiating energy outward in massive waves, spreading through space at incredible speeds. "Gravitational ripples," explained Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the physics station. "Sarah, we just rang the dinner bell. Every species with decent sensors within 100 light years is going to know something happened here." Sarah swore under her breath. They had been so focused on making the drive work that they had not fully considered how visible it might be. The test had lasted only 5 minutes, but those 5 minutes had apparently lit up sensors across dozens of star systems. "Shut it down," she ordered. "Controlled deactivation sequence. Let's not make this worse." The team worked quickly, carefully powering down their creation. The tiers in space slowly sealed themselves, and the impossible light faded away. The test drone returned safely through the closing portal, its hull slightly warped but intact. They had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, but Sarah could not shake the feeling that they had just made a terrible mistake. 3 days later, her fears were confirmed. The United Earth Government's Defense Command called an emergency meeting. Sarah and her team were ordered to attend via secure video link. When the screen flickered to life, she saw Admiral Thompson's grim face staring back at her. "Dr. Chen," he said without preamble, "we have a situation. 20 minutes ago, our deep space sensors detected multiple objects entering the solar system. They came from the direction of Alpha Centauri. They are moving fast and they are headed directly for Earth." Sarah's mouth went dry. "How fast?" "Faster than anything we have ever seen. They will reach Earth orbit in approximately 16 hours. The Admiral paused. Doctor, I need to know. Could your test have attracted attention? Yes, Sarah admitted quietly. We created gravitational waves that would have been visible for dozens of light years. If anyone was watching, they would have seen it. The Admiral nodded slowly. Then you should know that we received a transmission from these ships 10 minutes ago. It was broadcast in 23 different languages, including English. He pressed a button and a new voice filled the room. It was not human. It sounded like wind chimes mixed with grinding stone, but the words were clear and precise. Attention, inhabitants of the third planet. You have violated the Kardashev Accords through unauthorized and dangerous FTL experimentation. Cease all such activities immediately. A diplomatic envoy will arrive within 1 solar day to discuss terms of your compliance. Resistance will not be tolerated. The transmission ended. Sarah looked at her team, seeing her own fear reflected in their faces. Humanity had reached for the stars and finally touched them. But the stars, it seemed, were reaching back, and they did not sound happy about it. The next 16 hours would determine humanity's future among the galactic community. Sarah just hoped they would survive long enough to have a future at all. The alien ships arrived exactly when they said they would. Sarah watched from the observation deck of the Geneva station as 5 vessels dropped out of FTL at the edge of Earth's orbit. They were beautiful in a strange way, all flowing curves and crystalline structures that caught the sunlight and split it into colors that should not exist. The largest ship moved forward slowly, carefully. Its hull shimmered with symbols that shifted and changed as Sarah watched. A smaller craft detached from it and began descending toward Earth's surface. The United Earth government had arranged a meeting at the Geneva Ground Complex, neutral territory, where the first contact would take place. Sarah and her team were there when the alien shuttle landed. It touched down without a sound, and a door that Sarah had not even seen opened in its side. The being that emerged was tall, perhaps 7 feet, with skin that looked like polished bluestone. It had 4 arms, 2 legs, and a face that was almost human except for the 3 golden eyes arranged in a triangle pattern. I am Ambassador Zix Thera of the Velkrin hegemony, the alien said in perfect English. Its mouth did not move. Instead, a device on its chest translated its thoughts into sound. I speak for the Galactic Council in matters concerning technological violations and system security. President Maria Santos of the United Earth government stepped forward. She looked tiny compared to the ambassador, but her voice was steady. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. I am President Santos. We received your message, though I must admit we do not understand what laws we have broken. We were not aware that experimentation within our own solar system was restricted. Zixathera's 3 eyes focused on the president, then shifted to Sarah and her team. You were not aware because your species has not yet been invited to join the galactic community. Your technology was deemed insufficient for contact. That assessment, it seems, requires revision. Insufficient? Martinez muttered beside Sarah. She elbowed him to be quiet. The ambassador gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of glowing lines connecting star systems. These are the approved hyperlanes, natural corridors in space where faster-than-light travel is safe and regulated. All species in the Council use these pathways. Travel speed is limited to 10 light-years per standard day to prevent temporal disruptions and dimensional instabilities. Sarah leaned forward, studying the map. We did not use hyperlanes. We created our own path. Precisely the problem, Zixthera said. Its tone suggested it was not pleased. 5,000 years ago, the Galactic Council established the Kardashev Accords. These treaties limit FTL technology to prevent catastrophic events. Uncontrolled FTL drives can tear holes in space-time. They can create temporal paradoxes. They can attract attention from things that should remain unnoticed. What things? President Santos asked. The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. That information is restricted to Council members. What you need to know is that your experiment violated laws established for the safety of all species. You must surrender your research immediately and agree to use only Council-approved FTL technology. Sarah felt anger rising in her chest. They had worked for 7 years. They had succeeded where everyone said they would fail. And now aliens were telling them to throw it all away because of laws humanity never agreed to follow. President Santos must have felt the same way. Ambassador, with all respect, humanity is not part of your council. We did not sign your accords. We cannot be held responsible for laws we did not know existed. Ignorance is not an excuse for endangering the galaxy, Zixthera replied coldly. You will comply or the Council will take more direct action. Is that a threat? Admiral Thompson stepped forward, his hand resting on his sidearm. Useless against an alien in armor, Sarah thought, but the gesture was clear enough. It is a statement of fact, the ambassador said. Your species is young and reckless. You do not understand the forces you are manipulating. Before you respond, perhaps you should see what your test actually accomplished. Another hologram appeared. This one showed their test 3 days ago, but from a different perspective. Sarah watched as their drive activated and space cracked open, but in this view she could see something she had missed. The cracks spread far beyond the test chamber. They rippled outward through space like waves on a pond, passing through planets and stars as if they were not there. The waves reached dozens of systems, causing sensor equipment to fail and ships to lose navigation. You disrupted communications across 43 systems, Zixthara explained. You caused 3 ships to emerge from FTL in the wrong locations. One of those ships crashed. 12 crew members died because of your carelessness. Sarah felt sick. They had killed people. Alien people, but still. They had not meant to, had not even known it was possible. But the result was the same. However, the ambassador continued, what truly concerns the Council is this. The hologram changed again, showing readings Sarah did not fully understand. Your drive achieved 500 light-years per day in testing. This is 50 times faster than any technology in the known galaxy. If your species develops this into working ships, the balance of power in the galaxy will shift dramatically. And there it was, Sarah realized. The real reason they were here, it was not just about safety or laws. It was about power. Some species in the Council were afraid of what humanity might become. President Santos smiled thinly. So you are not just concerned for our safety. You are concerned we might become too powerful too quickly. Both concerns are valid, Zixthera admitted. The Council has maintained peace for 5,000 years through careful regulation of technology and resources. Your species could destabilize everything. Or we could help advance everyone, Sarah found herself saying. Everyone turned to look at her. She swallowed nervously but continued. Our FTL drive does not rely on natural hyperlanes. We could open up parts of the galaxy that have been unreachable. We could connect isolated systems. Share it, I mean. We could share the technology with the Council. Absolutely not, said a harsh voice. Another alien had entered the room, this one reptilian with scales that gleamed like oil. The Council has spent millennia ensuring dangerous technologies remain controlled. We will not allow an upstart species to upset that order. Zixthera looked annoyed at the interruption but did not disagree. Councillor Vrask speaks harshly, but his point is valid. Your species lacks the wisdom to wield such power responsibly. President Santos's expression hardened. Ambassador, Councillor, I thank you for your concerns. But humanity did not ask for permission to advance, and we will not ask for it now. We will continue our research. If the Council wishes to discuss partnership or sharing of technology, we are open to that conversation. But we will not surrender our work, and we will not be threatened into compliance. The room went dead silent. Sarah could not believe what she was hearing. The President was refusing. She was actually refusing the Galactic Council's demands. Zixthera's 3 eyes widened slightly. President Santos, you do not understand the consequences of this decision. Perhaps not, Santos agreed. But we will find out together. This meeting is over. The aliens left without another word. As their shuttle lifted off and returned to their ship, Martinez turned to Sarah. What have we just done? I have no idea, Sarah admitted. But I think we just told the galaxy that humanity will not be pushed around. 2 days later, the United Earth government announced the launch of the UESS Prometheus, humanity's first FTL-capable warship. It would make a test run to Alpha Centauri and back to demonstrate that humanity's technology was real and functional. When the Prometheus completed the journey in 47 minutes instead of the normal 3 weeks, the galaxy finally understood that everything had changed. Humanity was not asking to join the galactic community anymore. They were announcing their arrival whether the Council liked it or not. The celebrations after the Prometheus's successful test flight lasted exactly 4 hours. Then the deep space sensors picked up something that turned cheering into screaming. Sarah was still in the control room when the alerts started blaring. She had barely slept in 3 days, running on coffee and adrenaline, but the sound of those alarms jolted her fully awake. The main display showed a massive energy signature appearing near Saturn's orbit. It had not traveled there. It had not emerged from FTL. It had simply appeared as if reality had opened up and let something through. "What am I looking at?" Admiral Thompson demanded over the communication link. He had stayed at Earth Defense Command after the diplomatic disaster with the Council. "I do not know," Sarah admitted, pulling up more detailed scans. "The signature does not match anything in our database. It is not a ship. It is not a natural phenomenon. It is just there, and it is big. Really big." "How big?" Sarah checked the numbers twice, then a third time, hoping she had made a mistake. She had not. "Roughly the size of Earth's moon. And it is moving, heading in-system toward us." The communication channel suddenly filled with interference, then cleared as a new voice cut through. It was Zixthera. "Human vessels, you must evacuate the inner system immediately. A devourer has breached into normal space. Your FTL experiments have attracted it." "What is a devourer?" President Santos asked. She had joined the channel from the ground complex. "Death," Zixthera said simply. 10,000 years ago, an ancient race called the Architects built FTL drives similar to yours. They thought themselves masters of space and time. Then the Devourers came. Within a single year, the Architects' entire civilization was destroyed, thousands of worlds rendered lifeless. We found only ruins and warnings carved in dead stone. The Council was formed in the aftermath, specifically to prevent this from happening again. Sarah felt ice spreading through her veins. "You knew this could happen. You knew there was something out there that our drives could attract, and you did not tell us? Would you have believed us?" The ambassador shot back. "You were told to stop. You refused. Now you will see why the Council's laws exist." The thing near Saturn was becoming visible now on optical sensors. Sarah wished it had stayed invisible. It was wrong. That was the only word she could think of to describe it. The entity looked like someone had taken a piece of space itself, crumpled it up, and then partially unfolded it again. It had too many angles that should not exist. Looking at it made her eyes hurt and her head spin. Shapes that were somehow both convex and concave at the same time. Colors that were not quite colors. Movement that suggested it existed in more dimensions than the three she could see. "Is anyone else seeing that?" Martinez asked weakly. He had gone pale and was looking away from the screen. "Do not look directly at it," Zixthera warned. "The Devourers exist partially outside normal spacetime. Observing them too closely can damage organic minds. We lost hundreds of researchers that way in the early days after their discovery." Even as they watched, the Devourer reached one of Saturn's moons. What happened next would give Sarah nightmares for years. The moon did not explode. It did not break apart. It simply ceased to exist, unraveling into streams of matter and energy that flowed into the Devourer like water down a drain. In less than 10 seconds, a celestial body that had existed for billions of years was gone. "We have to stop it," Admiral Thompson said, "before it reaches the inner planets, before it reaches Earth." "You cannot stop it," Counselor Vrask's voice joined the channel. "Your weapons are useless. Conventional explosives, lasers, kinetic weapons, they all simply pass through it or are absorbed. The only reason we survived the last Devourer incursion was that it eventually left on its own after consuming what it wanted. We ran and hid until it was gone. So your plan is to run away?" President Santos's voice was hard. "To abandon Earth and everyone on it? Your planet is already doomed," Vrask said flatly. "The Devourer is drawn to FTL signatures. You activated the strongest FTL drive in galactic history. It will not leave until it has consumed the source." Sarah was only half listening now. Her mind was racing through everything they knew about their FTL drive, everything they understood about space-time manipulation, everything they had learned from the Architect's warnings that Zixthera had finally shared. An idea was forming, insane and desperate, but possibly their only chance. "What if we did not run?" she said suddenly. Everyone stopped talking. "What if we used the drive that attracted it to fight back?" "That is suicide," Zixthera said. "The Devourer will destroy any ship that gets close to it." "Maybe," Sarah agreed. "But our drive does not just move through space. It tears it open. It creates controlled breaches in reality. What if we created a breach inside the Devourer itself? Used our own technology to close the door we accidentally opened?" There was a long silence. Then Zixthera said quietly, "That is the most insane plan I have ever heard. It might actually work, but someone would need to pilot a ship into the entity's core and activate the drive manually. The energy fluctuations would prevent remote control. "I will do it," said a new voice. "Commander Marcus Rivera, captain of the Prometheus. My ship has the strongest FTL drive ever built. If anyone can make this work, it is us." "Marcus, you will die," Sarah said, her throat tight. "Maybe," he replied, echoing her earlier words. "But if I do nothing, everyone dies. That is not really a choice at all." The next 6 hours were a blur of desperate preparation. The Council fleet, putting aside their differences with humanity for the moment, moved to support the attack. They could not hurt the Devourer, but they could provide cover and distraction. Smaller ships, faster ships, drawing its attention while the Prometheus moved into position. Sarah worked frantically to modify the Prometheus's FTL drive, turning it from a transportation device into a weapon. The theory was simple, but the execution was anything but. They needed to create a massive space-time breach inside the Devourer, a collapse so violent it would force the entity back through the dimensional tear it had used to enter their reality. As the fleet moved to intercept near Jupiter, Sarah found herself on the bridge of the Council flagship Eternal Truth beside Zix Thera. The ambassador had been surprisingly helpful once they started working together, sharing technical data that the Council had kept secret for millennia. "Why are you helping us now?" Sarah asked as they watched the battle unfold on the view screens. Council ships darted around the Devourer like insects around a fire, launching everything they had. Nothing worked. Weapons vanished into its impossible geometry. Ships that got too close simply stopped existing. "Because you were right," Zix Thera admitted. "The Council has spent so long trying to control everything, to prevent change, that we forgot how to adapt. Your species is reckless and young, but you face the impossible and ask how to beat it, instead of how to run from it. Perhaps we needed that reminder." On the screen, the Prometheus broke through the Council's defensive line and accelerated directly toward the Devourer. Sarah held her breath. This was it. Either Marcus would succeed, or humanity's first venture into galactic affairs would end in disaster. The Prometheus reached the Devourer's outer edge and did not disintegrate. It pushed forward, its hull straining, metal screaming as it forced its way into spaces that should not exist. Then suddenly the Devourer stopped thrashing. Its chaotic movements became more organized, more purposeful. The impossible angles aligned into something almost like a face, and Sarah swore she saw it looking directly at the Prometheus. "What is happening?" Zix Thera demanded. "This is not normal behavior." "I do not know," Sarah whispered. But deep in her gut, she felt something shift. This was not going according to plan. The Devourer was not reacting with mindless hunger anymore. It was reacting with something that looked disturbingly like recognition. Inside that thing, Marcus Rivera was about to discover something that would change everything they thought they knew about the Devourers and the ancient architects who had unleashed them on the galaxy. Marcus Rivera had seen a lot of strange things since becoming captain of humanity's first FTL warship. But nothing had prepared him for the inside of a Devourer. The moment the Prometheus crossed the entity's boundary, everything changed. The normal laws of physics seemed more like suggestions here. His instruments showed he was moving forward, backward, and sideways all at the same time. The ship's hull groaned as it tried to exist in spaces that had too many dimensions. "Status report," Marcus said, forcing his voice to stay calm, even though his mind was screaming at him to look away from the view screen. Outside the ship, if outside even meant anything here, he could see fragments of reality floating past, pieces of stars, chunks of planets, whole ships frozen in time, all drifting through an ocean of impossible colors. "Hull integrity at 70% and falling," his second officer reported. Lieutenant Chen, no relation to Dr. Sarah Chen, was sweating despite the cold air on the bridge. "But sir, something is wrong. We are not being attacked. The Devourer is not trying to destroy us. It is almost like it is letting us through." Marcus had noticed that too. The entity could have crushed them instantly, just like it had done to Saturn's moons. Instead, it had opened a path, like it was inviting them deeper inside. "Keep moving forward," Marcus ordered. "We have a job to do. Get me to the core." As they pushed deeper, Marcus started seeing things, not with his eyes but in his mind. Images flashing past too quickly to fully understand. Cities of light and crystal, beings made of pure energy singing equations that held universes together. A civilization so advanced they had learned to shape reality itself like clay. The architects. These were memories of the architects, "Sir, you need to see this," Lieutenant Chen said urgently. She had been analyzing the energy patterns around them. "These readings, they match our FTL drive's quantum signature. This thing is not just attracted to our technology. It is responding to it, like it recognizes something familiar." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "Can you boost our communication systems?" "I want to try something, sir." "Just do it. Route it through the FTL drive's emitters." Chen worked quickly, routing power to the communication array and linking it to their experimental drive. Marcus sat down at the control console and began entering commands. He was not trying to send words. Instead, he was sending mathematical equations, the same equations that made their FTL drive work. Quantum formulas that described how to fold space and create bridges between dimensions. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the Devourer responded. It was not language, not exactly. It was pure information flowing directly into Marcus's mind. Images and emotions and understanding all arriving at once. And in that moment, Marcus learned the terrible truth about the Devourers. They had once been the architects themselves. 10,000 years ago, the architects had built the most powerful FTL drive in history. Not to travel between stars, but to travel between universes. They wanted to explore the infinite realities that existed beyond their own. They succeeded, but they did not understand the cost. When their drive activated, it did not just open a door to another universe. It merged the two universes together. The architects found themselves existing in both realities at once. Their matter and energy spread across dimensions they could not fully perceive. It was agony beyond description. They tried to reverse the process, but only made it worse. More universes merged. More of their people were transformed into these impossible beings caught between dimensions, unable to fully exist in any one reality. The pain drove them mad. They became the Devourers, desperately consuming matter and energy from normal space, trying to make themselves whole again. But nothing worked. They were broken at a fundamental level, and they had broken themselves. The few architects who had not been transformed tried to warn other species. They built monuments and left messages carved in indestructible materials. Do not follow our path. Do not reach too far. Do not tear holes in reality itself. Then they died out, leaving behind only their transformed brethren and their warnings. The Galactic Council had found these warnings and built their entire civilization around avoiding the architect's fate. They limited FTL technology, restricted research, maintained control, not because they were power-hungry, though some were, but because they were terrified of creating more Devourers. And now humanity, in their ignorance and ambition, had created a drive using the same principles the architects had used. They had rung the same bell, and the Devourers had come, drawn by the familiar signature of the technology that had destroyed them. Marcus opened his eyes, tears streaming down his face. The knowledge the Devourer had shared was overwhelming, but within that knowledge he had also found something else. A solution. A way to fix what the architects had broken so long ago. "Chen," he said hoarsely, "I need you to recalibrate the FTL drive. Not for a weapon. For healing. The calculations are in my datapad. I am uploading them now. Sir, I do not understand."
"What are we healing?"
"Them," Marcus said simply, gesturing at the impossible space around them. "We are going to heal them." Back on the Eternal Truth, Sarah watched in confusion as the Prometheus stopped moving. The ship had reached what sensors approximated as the center of the Devourer, but instead of activating their weapon, it was just sitting there. "What is Rivera doing?" Admiral Thompson demanded. Before anyone could answer, Sarah's console lit up with an incoming data stream. It was from Marcus, transmitted at incredible bandwidth. She began reading, and her face went pale. "Oh no," she whispered. "Oh no, he figured it out." "Figured what out?" Zixthera moved to read over her shoulder. The ambassador went very still. "This cannot be. The Devourers are the architects? The council never knew. Or they never told anyone," Counselor Vrask said bitterly. He had joined them on the bridge. "I see now why the elder species were so adamant about maintaining control. They knew the truth and hid it to maintain their power." Sarah was barely listening. She was reading Marcus's plan, understanding what he intended to do and feeling her heart break. The human FTL drive worked differently than the architects had. Where the architects had merged universes, humanity's drive created temporary bridges that sealed behind them. That difference was crucial. If they could modify the drive correctly, They could use it to separate the merged dimensions, to untangle the devourers from the spaces they had been trapped in for 10,000 years. But it required someone to be inside the devourer during the process. Someone to manually adjust the drive in real time as the dimensions separated. The energy fluctuations would be catastrophic. No ship could survive it remotely, and no person could survive it at all. Marcus was going to die to save a creature that had come to destroy them. "Can we stop him?" Admiral Thompson asked. "No," Sarah said quietly. "And we should not. This is the right thing to do." On the view screen, the Prometheus began to glow, not with normal light, but with the same impossible colors they had seen when the Devourer first appeared. Marcus had activated the modified FTL drive. Space around the Devourer began to shift and change, no longer blending multiple dimensions but carefully separating them. The Devourer screamed. Sarah heard it somehow, even though sound should not travel through space. It was a sound of pain and relief all at once. The entity began to change, its impossible geometry slowly resolving into something more comprehensible. The fragments of reality trapped inside it began breaking free, returning to normal space. Planets and stars and even time itself started flowing back into the universe where they belonged. And at the center of it all, Marcus Rivera sat at his controls and worked. He could feel his body breaking down, could feel himself being pulled in too many directions at once. But he kept his hands steady and made the calculations work. He thought about Earth, about his family, about the future humanity would have because of what he was doing right now. "Sarah," he transmitted, his voice weak, "tell everyone this was worth it. Tell them the Devourers were not monsters, just people who made a mistake. Tell them we fixed it." Then the light became too bright to see, and Marcus Rivera gave his life to heal a wound that had bled for 10,000 years. The light faded slowly like a sunset that lasted for hours. When Sarah could finally see again, the Devourer was gone. In its place was something that looked like a living aurora, sheets of colored light flowing in patterns that suggested intelligence and purpose. It was still not entirely of this universe, but it was no longer trapped between dimensions. It was free, and floating in the center of it, somehow intact, was the Prometheus. "Get me a scan of that ship," Sarah shouted, hardly daring to hope. The readings came back showing massive damage. Hull breaches on every deck, systems failing across the board. But there were life signs. Faint but present. Marcus had survived. The entity that had been a devourer seemed to notice the ship at the same moment Sarah did. Gently, more gently than should have been possible for something so vast. It wrapped tendrils of light around the Prometheus and pushed it back toward the fleet. The ship drifted free of the aurora, and Sarah could see scorch marks and warping across its hull that would take months to repair. Recovery teams from both human and alien ships rushed forward. Marcus was found unconscious on the bridge, every bone in his body broken, his DNA partially rewritten by the energies he had been exposed to. But he was alive. Against all odds and every prediction, Marcus Rivera had survived. The Aurora entity remained for 3 more days. During that time, it sent streams of information to every ship in the system, not in words but in pure concepts that translated automatically in each species' mind. It showed them what had really happened to the architects. It showed them the pain of existing in multiple dimensions at once, and it showed them gratitude for being healed, for being freed from 10,000 years of torment. Then it opened a final message, this one directed specifically at Sarah and her team. "Thank you. We remember, we watch. We hope you succeed where we failed. Do not fear your technology, but respect it. Do not restrict knowledge, but use it wisely. The universe is vast and full of wonders. You have earned the right to explore it." The aurora collapsed inward on itself and vanished, returning to whatever space existed between dimensions. But unlike before when devourers appeared by tearing holes in reality, this departure was clean, controlled. It left no wounds in space-time, no gravitational ripples, no damage, just a peaceful absence where something impossible had briefly existed. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy exploded with activity. The younger species of the Galactic Council, those who had been denied advanced technology and held back by the elder race's restrictions, saw what humanity had accomplished and demanded change. They wanted the technological treaties rewritten. They wanted the monopoly on power broken. They wanted a voice in how the galaxy was run. The elder species resisted at first. Councillor Vrask argued that the current system had maintained peace for 5,000 years. But Zixthera, to everyone's surprise, sided with the reformers. "We maintained peace by suppressing advancement," the ambassador said during the emergency council session that Sarah watched via secure transmission. "We told ourselves it was for safety, but Commander Rivera proved that technology is not inherently dangerous. It is how we use it that matters. Humanity could have destroyed the Devourer, but they chose to heal it instead. That is the wisdom we should be promoting, not the fear that has guided us for millennia." The debates raged for months. Some species threatened to leave the council entirely. Others proposed splitting into multiple factions. But slowly, painfully, a consensus emerged. The galaxy needed to change. The question was how. Sarah found herself at the center of these discussions, much to her discomfort. She was a scientist, not a politician, but the galaxy wanted to hear from humanity. And since Marcus was still recovering from his injuries, she had to speak for Earth. 6 months after the Devourer incident, Sarah stood before the full Galactic Council. It was her first time seeing the council chambers in person, a massive structure orbiting a neutron star at the galaxy's center. Representatives from 47 species filled the seats, their attention focused entirely on her. "Members of the council," Sarah began, her voice amplified to reach every corner of the vast chamber. "Humanity did not seek to disrupt your order. We simply wanted to reach the stars. But in doing so, we learned that order maintained through restriction is not true order at all. It is stagnation. We do not propose chaos," she continued. "We propose collaboration. Humanity will share our FTL technology freely with any species that wants it. In return, we ask that you share your knowledge with us, not just about technology, but about the galaxy itself, about the dangers that exist, the wonders we might find, the mistakes we should avoid." She pulled up a hologram showing her proposal, months of work condensed into a single document. "We call it the Geneva Protocols, a new framework for technological development that balances innovation with safety. It includes early warning systems to detect dimensional breaches before they become dangerous, rapid response teams trained to handle FTL accidents, and most importantly, shared research conducted by scientists from all species working together." "Humanity offers to lead this initiative," Sarah said. "But we do not want to control it. We want every species to have a voice. We want the council to represent all of us, not just the oldest or most powerful." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives loved the idea. Others hated it. Many were simply confused about how such a thing would even work. The debates continued for hours, then days, then weeks. In the end, the vote was close. 25 species in favor, 20 against, 2 abstaining. The Geneva Protocols passed by the narrowest possible margin. The Galactic Council would remain, but it would be reformed. Technology would be shared, not hoarded. Research would be collaborative, not restricted. And humanity would have a seat at the table, not as junior members waiting to prove themselves, but as full equals who had earned their place through courage and compassion. Sarah was offered the position of Director of Galactic Research and Development. She almost refused, wanting nothing more than to return to her lab and her experiments. But then she thought about Marcus, still recovering in a hospital on Earth, his body slowly adapting to the changes the Devourer's energies had made to him. He had sacrificed everything to do the right thing. The least she could do was accept some responsibility. 5 years later, Sarah stood in the observation deck of Humanity's Hope, the first joint research station built by multiple species working together. Ships from across the galaxy came and went, carrying scientists eager to explore the new possibilities humanity's FTL drive had opened up. No longer restricted to the old hyperlanes, they could reach previously isolated systems, make contact with species that had been cut off for thousands of years, and explore regions of the galaxy that had been considered too dangerous or too remote. Marcus was with her, fully recovered now and serving as ambassador to the Reformed Council. The energies he had absorbed had changed him in strange ways. He could sense disturbances in space-time before instruments detected them. He sometimes saw things that existed slightly outside normal reality. It was disconcerting but useful. He had already helped prevent 3 potential dimensional breaches by detecting the early warning signs. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Marcus asked, watching a Velcrin research ship dock with the station. "Opening everything up like this. There are species out there that might misuse the technology." "Probably," Sarah admitted, but hiding it away and hoping no one else discovers it did not work either. The architects proved that. Better to face the future together than separately. A soft alert chimed on Sarah's datapad. She checked it and smiled. We just received a transmission from the Deep Space Monitoring Network. They detected a faint signal from the same direction the healed devourer went. It is sending us mathematical equations. What kind of equations? New ones. Formulas we have never seen before. Sarah's eyes lit up with excitement. I think it is teaching us. Showing us safer ways to manipulate space-time. Marcus, I think the architects are still trying to help us even now. Marcus looked out at the stars, at the ships carrying people from dozens of species all working toward a common goal. Then we better not let them down. They made mistakes, but they are giving us the chance to do better. We should take it. Humanity's journey to the stars had begun with an experiment that nearly destroyed everything. It had continued with first contact that almost became first war. It had been tested by an ancient enemy that turned out to be a wounded victim. And it had succeeded because humanity chose understanding over fear, collaboration over control, and healing over destruction. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of opportunities. And now, thanks to humanity's reckless courage and unexpected compassion, every species in the Galactic Council had the chance to explore it together. On Earth, in the Geneva ground complex where humanity first met the Galactic Council, a new monument was unveiled. It showed the Prometheus flying into the heart of the Devourer, commemorating the day humanity proved they belonged among the stars, not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because when faced with the impossible choice between destroying an enemy and healing a victim, they chose compassion. The plaque beneath read simply, "They reached for the stars and the stars reached back." May we always remember that the greatest power is not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to heal. And somewhere in the space between dimensions, the healed architects watched and remembered and hoped that this time, this species, this brave and foolish humanity, would finally get it right.